On this episode of the Podcasting Tools Show, I'm going to show you a scheduling tool which will make your life so much easier, so much more organized, avoid all the email ping pong involved in organizing podcast interviews, meetups, co-hosted shows, anything that involves other people that you have to organize. This is the tool for you. It's called Book Like a Boss, and it'll let you schedule anything super easily. Hey, this is Colin Gray from thepodcasthost.com, as always on the Podcasting Tools Show, ready to bring you another tool which will help you in your podcasting. And then actually, this one here I use for much more than just podcasting. This tool helps me organize my entire life pretty much in terms of when I meet up with people, when I schedule events, meetups, chats, calls, whatever it might be. That includes podcast interviews, of course, one of the core ways that I use it, but it also includes just catching up with people, networking, meetings, anything like that. Anything that involves setting a time for two people to get together, then this will do it for you. And actually, recently, they've also added events. So you can actually organize more wide-ranging events with more than just one person, with a few people, or even with a massive group, like a webinar or something like that. Now, the really cool thing about this tool it's called Book Like a Boss. Okay, that's the one that I use. There are some alternatives, but if you want to try Book Like a Boss, go over to thepodcasthost.com /book like a boss, and you'll get our affiliate link that will take you straight there. Obviously, that'll be no extra cost to you. Give us a small commission, which helps support our content. If you use that, it'd be much appreciated. But that's where you can go over and check out the pricing and everything. It's a reasonably good value tool, I think. It doesn't cost you very much. For the amount of time that it saves you, it's really good. And I'll just add in as well, when we're talking about money, the fact that you can have normal free events, so organizing podcast interviews, organizing all those, standard meetups, but you can sell products through Book Like a Boss as well. So you can set paid engagements. So maybe you run your podcast for free normally. Obviously, people sign up, they subscribe to your show, they get your show, but people also want to engage with you, to get your consulting or to get your services or for you to help with them with anything at all, just to get your opinions on something. You can set up meetings, which you can put a price on. People can sign up, can pay the price, and only get booked in when they've paid the actual cost of it as well. And I'll show you that as we go through the tool. But let's have a look at it. If we look at the screen now, so here is my standard, or this is my light booking page actually. You see how it works, just to give you an idea in the first place. We've got a name at the top, you've got an image, you've got a type of meeting. So this is for a quick chat, just 15 minutes. And you can see the calendar here. So people can just choose a day. If you haven't used one of these tools before, then this will be a revelation for you. And if you have, I'll show you what particular features Book Like a Boss has to make it worthwhile above and beyond the alternatives like Calendly and Schedule Once and the like. So you pick a time, you can fill in all the details here. Great thing I like about Book Like a Boss is that for each meeting, you can set extra criteria. So you can have extra fields like Skype username or the phone number or anything like that. So you can get people to fill in their names, their email addresses, what's the meeting about, Skype username, whatever. You can get extra detail. And that is great because it means that when you have people booking a podcast interview, for example, you can ask them for things like their social media handles, their biography, their URL to their headshot. So instead of all that other stuff, there's always email ping pong going back and forth, trying to figure out when you can meet up with somebody. But then it goes beyond that because then you have to get in touch and say, can you give me your bio? Can you give me your headshot? All that kind of stuff. What's your Twitter handle? Instead, you can ask for that upfront when they make that initial booking, and it's all there in Book Like a Boss right away. Okay, so let's go on to the ways it works. So we've got a few different ways to set it up. You've got appointments, you've got products and services, and events. Now, the way these work is appointments are your free events, okay? So you can have lots of different types of appointments. In my account, I've got a quick chat, which is 15 minutes. I've got a standard meeting, which is 30 minutes. I've got a long meeting, which is an hour. So that's kind of my standard ones. They follow the schedule that I've set out. One of the amazing things about this is you can set it so that, it only makes you free from 12 till 2 on a Monday or 2 till 5 on a Tuesday. Maybe Wednesday you're free all day. You set it to be 9 till 5. And if you go into one of the appointments, you can actually see that. If you go in and edit an appointment, you can set up within each appointment, you can set up the timelines. So if you have custom settings, you set availability, and you can actually add custom availability on particular days for each individual day, which is really cool actually, because it means that you can have a set of appointments which cover a standard sort of schedule, which you set in the default settings. But then you can have a few different appointments, like for example, my high priority one. I've got a priority meeting appointment in here as well. And on that one, I actually have some extra time slots. So my standard one only opens up afternoons normally, because that's when I like to do calls. I like to get my proper work done in the mornings, and then I do my calls in the afternoons. And in my priority one, I add in a couple of morning slots and a couple of evening slots. I don't want to do them often, so that's why it's only individual on a priority one. But you can see that it's useful to be able to offer that flexibility, to offer a wee bit more flexibility to certain people. So if somebody turns out to be in Australia or the US or outside of my time zone essentially, and we really can't make one of the normal slots work, I can send them my priority meeting link, and they can then pick one of those extra ones. And I only have to do them once in a while when I really choose to. So I really like that flexibility there. There's a few other things in here as well. Obviously, I haven't even mentioned the fact you link this up to your calendar. So you link it up to Google Calendar, to your Outlook calendar, whatever calendar system you use, so that Book Like a Boss then, every time somebody tries to book an appointment, they then see only slots that are available at that particular time, because Book Like a Boss is going back and it's checking your calendar. It's looking at, oh, here's Wednesday. What's Colin got on that day? Oh, he's recording Podcraft that day. So we can offer up the normal slot, which is at that time. So Book Like a Boss will check your calendar to make sure you're free. So you can block out days just using your calendar really easily. And obviously that means that if somebody else has booked a particular slot, they're not going to double book it, because that'll be in your calendar now. And therefore it won't be available to other people. And that's actually a really good point as well. The fact that Book Like a Boss, because it integrates with your calendar, it not only reads from your calendar to check when you're free, it writes to your calendar as well. So when you send out your link, maybe 2 or 3 people sign up for meeting slots, then that is automatically added to your Google Calendar, to your Outlook calendar. So you always know what's coming up, because all you have to do is look at your Google Calendar and it'll send you the reminders as normal. So that's really cool. So the appointments are great. I have loads of different appointments. I've got my standard quick chat, standing meeting, long meeting, which are really just a length, 15, 30 in an hour. I've got my priority one. I have one set up for local lunches as well, actually. It's only, the schedule in that one is an hour, 12 till 1. And I send that to people that I know in my own city, which sets us up for an hour at lunchtime. And I put specific instructions in that one as well. You can set the email that goes out afterwards to, you've got follow-up emails that you can set. So a success message, for example, it says, thanks for booking lunch at Sudesh Meeting, which is a local pub to me, a local pub. Yeah, well, it is a pub, I suppose. But we meet for lunch. It's good for food and coffee as well. Not normally having beer at lunchtime, but you can do if you want. You can do if you want, because it's a pub. But yeah, so I send out that particular success message. I set a success message specific to that meeting to tell people where we want to meet. And that really cuts down on the back and forth that you have to do afterwards. So what else can we look at in Book Like a Boss? Okay, so that's the appointments. We've got the, lots of different types of appointments. I'm just going to have a quick look. Let me have a look and see what other kinds of appointments in here, just in case there's anything worth mentioning. Because if I go into the appointments, they're all the free ones. We actually use this for interviews a lot as well. I find it very good for setting up staff interviews, stuff like that. So if you have a team, for example, as well, I use this to actually schedule developer interviews for our team. So just worth thinking about that as well. There's lots of different ways I use this tool. But anyway, let's have a look then at the products and services. So appointments, again, are the free ones. Products and services are the paid ones. So you can set up paid consulting. The way we use this at the podcast host is me and Matthew. So Matthew is obviously my first in command, always on Podcraft, so you've probably heard him before. First in command, second in command is the phrase, I think, isn't it? Anyway, he's the one that runs most of the actual podcast production business and the content within the podcast host. And he does a lot of our coaching. So we have links to allow people to book in with Matthew for half an hour for a bit of consulting, a bit of coaching. We've got links to book in with me for half an hour for a bit of consulting and coaching. And we've got the same for an hour as well. So if people get in touch on email or in Twitter or whatever, if people get in touch with us and say, we'd love some coaching, I'd love some of your time to sort through this problem, to work through this, we send out these links. And what happens here is people end up on this page and they can see the calendar as normal, but it's accompanied by a price. Okay, so it shows the price. So on the page I have for my half an hour booking, for example, I've got the price for that half hour. And when people book it in, they type in the time, they type in all their details, they select the time, they type in their details, and then the bottom of the entry field, when they're booking in there, actually asks for credit card details or PayPal details. And they can make a payment, and they can only click the Book Me button once they've actually filled in the payment details. And this links to Stripe for us, but you can use PayPal for it as well. So Stripe allows us to take credit cards directly. So it means that the appointment will only be confirmed, it'll only be booked, it'll only be added to your calendar when the person has actually paid for it. And we found that really useful over the years. And it's a great way to monetize a podcast because your audience out there, if you're teaching something, they're a loyal audience, they trust you, they know you, they're quite likely to appreciate a half an hour with you just to ask you some questions, to go personal on their area. You know, you give them tons of free advice, but they might want to ask a particular approach based on how their business works or, you know, their sector or whatever. So offering up even just a half an hour or an hour of your time using a payment service like this can be a really nice way to monetize a podcast in the early days. It can be a way to make some money even when you don't have much, a very big audience. It can be really good. Take you through the final one here, which is events. Now, I've not used this yet, so I don't know too much about it. I haven't any experience with it, but certainly Book Like a Boss have released this recently to allow you to book things like webinars or one-day meetups or other group events that, you know, have a specific time and date to it. And you can now create these in Book Like a Boss, and it'll create a landing page for it, a landing page you can then promote to get signups. And it's great. It means you can charge for it. It means you can ask people to pay in advance of it, and they only get the attendance details after they've paid. Or if it's a free event, people can just sign up, and it just means that you've got all their details. You can send them all out, reminders on the day before the booking, all that kind of stuff. So it means that you don't have to use dedicated webinar software anymore because you can just set up an event in something like Book Like a Boss, put all the details in there, and then the success message will send them a link to a Zoom room, for example, or an Appear-In room, or a Google Meet room, or whatever it is, whatever you're going to run it in. Just makes it really simple. So we'll be using this in future for events. I think it'll be a really nice addition. It's a good part of the tool. So just to cover a few final things before we tie up. Like I said, you can have a general booking schedule within Book Like a Boss. So if you're watching the video version of this, you'll see on screen right now, you can see my schedule. I've got 12 till 5. If you can't see it, not too much of a loss. I'll describe it through. Monday, for example, I've got the afternoons. Tuesday, I've got the whole day. Wednesday, I've got just 12 till 1 to give me not too much bookings on that day. So you can set as the default, but then you can obviously override it with the individual events as well. On the left, you've got in the settings, you can link up calendars. You can link up more than one calendar as well. So if you do have 2 or 3 different calendars or team calendars, for example, that you use, you can certainly link up them as well so it doesn't overwrite. So you're only available on days you really are available. It's really good that way. And then you've got integrations too. Book Like a Boss integrates with quite a lot of different tools, which is very nice. It links up with Zoom, for example, which is great because it means it can add an individual Zoom meeting link to every single booking that is made. means that every single person that books in with it, they get their own individual Zoom meeting. So there's never going to be any kind of people ending up in the wrong room, or you get somebody else jumping into a room you're already in an interview with. They only have their own individual room, and it means that the link is right there in the booking, in the calendar, and the email that's sent out to them. So there shouldn't be any confusion at all about where people are going to be for this meeting. And similar, they can link up with Google Meet as well to do the same thing. You've got a few other in here. You can link up with MailChimp to really sort of get people into your MailChimp list. You can integrate it with YouTube as well, actually. So you can bring in some YouTube videos just to show off your brand, that kind of stuff. And Google Analytics as well, so you can actually track visits to your page. If you're doing a lot of events, a lot of bookings, especially paid ones, it might be handy to be able to see that. And that's pretty much it. That's all I want to cover on Book Like a Boss. Again, great tool. We use it all the time. I literally send out my Book Like a Boss link a few times a day at least, and it powers really all the meetings I have. If you want to go over and check it out, you can sign up using our link. If you don't mind, it helps thank us for the content we put out there. No extra cost to you. It's over at thepodcasthost.com/book like a boss. I hope that's been useful to you. And obviously, you can go and check out all of our other stuff as well. I'll mention Alitu. Alitu is our podcast maker app. Alitu is an app designed to help you make your podcast. So if you're booking these interviews, Alitu is actually releasing call recording very soon. So by the time you see this video, most likely Alitu will have its call recording public. Pop over to alitu.com, alitu.com, and you can see. And therefore, you can book the calls using Book Like a Boss and then run your calls right inside Alitu. We'll do the cleanup for you. So noise reduction, leveling will all be done for you. Your calls will be brought straight into the episode builder, so you can edit them there. It'll add your music automatically, front and end. You can add the intros, record your intros to the interview right into Alitu as well. And you can do it all right in there, build your entire episode. So yeah, go over to alitu.com, alitu.com to get your 7-day free trial. Thanks again for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get all the upcoming videos. And that'll do it for me. I'll sign off for now. I'll see you on the next video.